call the meeting to order. If everyone would please stand.
I will. Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your blessings, Lord. We just ask that you give us wisdom, Lord, as we try to make the best decisions for our citizens. We thank you for all that you do. We ask these prayers in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in your pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you may be seated. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We've got a pretty full house.
Yes.
That's good.
Looks good.
All righty, item 5 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, members of the council, before you do, you have an amended agenda at your seats, and I wanted to point out what we have added to the agenda for tonight. We've actually added under presentations, Pitt County Schools Early College High School 2019 Community Black History Quiz Bowl winners. We're going to be recognizing those folks with us this evening. And let's see. We've added a short closed session on some property matters. And Don, was there something else?
We did leave one public.
Oh, we did have a public comment from the Creekside principal who wanted to be here this evening, but he had a family issue come up and couldn't be here, so he will try to join us again.
Yeah.
So there are the changes.
Okay. With those changes in mind,
So move.
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 6 is a new employee.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'd like to introduce to you the town's, or Parks and Rec's, newest employee, Caleb Pate. Caleb comes to us from Pitt County Community Schools Facility Services. He is a local gentleman from Pitt County. He has some folks that are related to him in one way, form, or fashion that work for the town as well. Caleb's done a great job in the little bit of time that he's been with us, really hit the ground running. So we're happy to have him. Caleb?
Just want to thank you for the opportunity and just look forward to working for the town and hope to serve well.
Okay, it's customary that new employees give about an hour speech.
Give about an hour.
Fast time.
Glad to have you on board.
Welcome.
Okay, item number 7 is a proclamation, and it's a proclamation recognizing Girl Scout Week. And I've got the proclamation right up here. I don't know who's going to receive it. Which one of you?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Come down.
How exciting.
I'll read it and then come down and present it. How about that? All you Girl Scouts, come on up.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Future leaders.
Proclamation for Girl Scout Week. Whereas the year 2019 marks the 107th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the United States, the largest and most successful leadership program for girls in the world. And whereas Girl Scouts unleashes the GIRL, go-getter, innovator, risk-taker, leader in every girl, preparing her for a lifetime of leadership. And whereas Girl Scouts combines time-related, research-backed methods with exciting modern programming that speaks to today's girls and is designed to cater to the strength of girls' leadership, development, and excuse me. Whereas Girl Scouts offers girls 21st century programming in science, technology, engineering, and math, the outdoors, entrepreneurship, and beyond, helping girls develop invaluable life skills and take the lead early and often. And whereas as the world's premier leadership development organization for girls, Girl Scouts welcome all girls of all backgrounds and interests who want to develop the courage, confidence, and character to make the world a better place. And whereas the Girl Scout Award is the highest and most prestigious award in Girl Scouts, call on Girl Scouts in grades 9 through 12 to take on projects that have a measurable and sustainable impact on the community by first assessing a need, design a solution, completing a project, and inspiring others to sustain it. And whereas more than 100 years of experience, Girl Scouts brings a wealth of knowledge to programs that deliver girls to cornerstone experiences with benefits that last a lifetime. And whereas today more than 50 million women are Girl Scout alums, and 202.6 million girls and adults are current members. Now therefore I, Douglas A. Jackson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Winterville, North Carolina, do hereby applaud the Girl Scout movement and North Carolina Coastal Pines for providing girls with a safe, inclusive, all-girls space where they can hone their skills and develop leadership abilities. And I declare the 11th through the 15th of March 2019 to be Girl Scout Week. In witness thereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed on the 11th day of March 2019, and I signed it. Now, I'm going to come around and we'll try to get, I know that. How about if we get around the side?
Just move over there, we go. Yeah. Right, girls, look up here. Girl Scouts.
Okay. Which one, who should I give this to? Okay. All right. We thank you.
Yeah. So cute. Quite sure most of us ate quite a few of those cookies that you were selling.
That's what I'm talking about. Where the Girl Scout cookies?
Real good, too.
Okay. All right, item number 8 is the Pitt County School, this is a long one. The Pitt County Schools Early College High School 2019 Community Black History Quiz Bowl winners. Now, I forgot how many we have. Our clerk has got all of them.
And he's gonna help you.
Okay, that's good.
As the mayor comes around, if you all would like to, the team members and your team advisor, if you all would like to come on up.
As we call the names, I'm sure that
Okay, they're in the order I'm going to call them, Mayor. Tequila Jones. You Tequila? Let's get this one. Haley Martinez. Labrissa Martinez, Denaria Powell, Taswaya White, and your advisor was Bernetta Bradley. Now, did Harmony make it? Okay. That's, would you give that to her?
Okay, guys, if you'll just shift a little bit more towards the layer. All right, guys. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you.
Thank you.
I serve as an advisor to a group of students that participated in the Black History Quiz Bowl. So I know how much work it takes on the part of the students, and this effort is done outside of what they have to do in the classroom. And since the early college program is located in Winterville, North Carolina, I feel like this brings honor to our community. It enhances our life. All of you girls, the Girl Scouts, and the people that participated in this. We greatly appreciate everything you do to make our community a nice place to live.
47 years ago, I was offered a job teaching Black history at Aycock Middle School. And of course, at that time, I was kind of young, and I declined. I had not even graduated yet. Just to find a teacher was very difficult at that time who would teach the course. Congratulations.
I'm kind of hard of hearing sometimes, and my city manager here just whispered something to me about a high school student.
Yeah, I think we have some high school students with us this evening from South Central. I know for a fact. I don't know if there are any other schools being represented. Just wanted to say welcome and appreciate you all coming.
Mayor, would it be all right for them just to stand so we can recognize them? The one from South Central, would you just please stand? All
Any
South-
the students from South, there
South
we go.
Oh, wow, good.
Okay,
Alright.
good.
What is your teacher's name?
Victoria Bridges.
Victoria Bridget.
This is the one, is your mic on? Is your mic on?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
it was on.
Second item is a presentation of the audit report for 2017-18. I think Mr. Bowers is going to.
As Mr. Bowers comes forward, I just wanted to say he has been waiting with excitement to present this to you all this evening.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't sleep last night. Good
Time
evening.
change.
Hope everybody's doing well. If you recall, Mr. Michael Jordan of CRI fame, not the basketball fame, came and presented to the town council earlier this year with his perspective on our annual audit. And so what we'd like to do now, due to the strange circumstances that seem to start happening on an annual basis, we wanted to go ahead and get him in because of time constraints and other issues with his schedule, as well as wanting to let the council know where the audit stood. And so what we did is we had Mr. Jordan come in, give his findings, and he gave a presentation, but at that point in time, we did not have the actual comprehensive annual financial report. And so what we're doing tonight is we're bringing this document to you tonight, and we're going to kind of go over some of the financials. we're going to keep it brief. I'm going to get a little bit of overview on why we do this and what the results are of this year's audit. Again, this year's audit being the one that ended June 30th, 2018. So, audit requirements. What are the audit requirements? North Carolina General Statute 159-34 requires municipalities and other governmental entities to be audited annually. So, it's something that's mandated by the state. It must be performed by an independent audit firm. We can't use our own staff or council members to perform the audit. It has to be done by a CPA firm that's independent from the town. This information provides citizens and the council with feedback regarding the staff's financial management of funds according to the generally accepted accounting principles. If you ever hear governmental finance people talking about GAAP, that's what that means, generally accepted accounting principles. And so that's kind of like the rules that we try to live by. And it also provides critical feedback for staff and gives us opportunity for improvement. So the time period, as I mentioned earlier, this was for July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, which is our fiscal year. The North Carolina Local Government Commission requires submissions to be submitted by October 31st unless extensions are granted due to unusual circumstances, and that was kind of what I was alluding to a little bit earlier with the unusual circumstances. There were two this year that affected the timing of the audit submittal. That was Hurricane Florence, as well as the implementation of new GASB 75. So, of course, here we are with the acronym. Again, GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Boards. They're the people who make all the rules when it comes to governmental accounting. And with these new standards this year, it was a different way of reporting our post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB. So those requirements changed for everyone, and so due to that, we had to contract to have an actuarial study done by another audit firm. So in order to do our regular audit, we had to audit our post-employment benefits. And during that process, because of the volume, I've got a volume at the end of that sentence there. Due to the fact that everybody had to comply with this, the actuarials got pushed back, and so the state recognized this as well. So what was our independent auditor's opinion? These are their words. I'm quoting them out of the audit document, and I'll read that for you. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, and each major fund of the town of Winterville, North Carolina, as of June 30th, 2018, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year then ending in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And so you see under there is another statement called unmodified or unqualified, and those are accounting terms, which means it's a clean audit. So they like to use those terms. Unmodified report basically in layman's terms is we presented them with information and they did not have to modify it or change the information to present the town's financial condition in a proper manner. So it did not have to be modified or changed. For the old timers like those of us who have been around for a while, it used to be called unqualified. So So we're going to talk a little bit about each fund. We'll kind of go over this. This is some of the data that Mr. Jordan presented to you, and I'm going to just briefly hit these, and then I added a few little things down, to make it a little bit different as well. So wanted to go through and compare our budget to actual for each one of the funds, and then our fund balance, or as we all know, our savings account, rainy day fund for each fund. And then I wanted to let you know where our debt position is in each fund and how much we owe for long-term debt. So with the general fund, we have revenues budget to actual. The budget was $8,110,000, and I'm going to round if that's okay with everybody. And then our actual revenues were $7,939,000. Budget to actual expenditures. So we budgeted $11,572,000, and we spent $9,083,000. And if you're wondering why the revenues and expenditures aren't balanced, because in North Carolina we have to have a balanced budget. Our budget is balanced every year through various means, and sometimes we have to get creative to make things happen. But when it's presented in the financial statements, anytime there's fund balance used or other things of that nature that are not current revenues, they're not always listed there. So that's why if you see revenues of $8 million and expenditures of $11 million, there's other things at play there. These are current revenues. Unassigned fund balance for the general fund is $5,428,000, and that percentage of our annual operating budget is based on the expenditures is 59.76%. Our debt position for the general fund is almost $8 million. Pile bill, revenues budget to actual. We can predict the revenues in the pile bill pretty good because there's only a few factors in there, and we used some budget amendments to make sure everything's good at the end of the year. But $1,051,000 on the revenues, and then $1,051,000 with the budget expenditures. They actually tie up, and then we have appropriation expenditure of $458,000. Unassigned fund balance in the pile fund is $506,000, and then that percentage of our annual operating budget is 91%. So the pile bill fund does not have any debt. We don't borrow against that fund. Electric fund revenues, again, budget to actual $7,249,000, and actual was $7,304,000, so slightly above what we budgeted. Expenditures $7,411,000, and actual $6,500,000. So you can see we're constantly coming in under budget, not having any budget violations when it comes to expenditures. Unrestricted retained earnings for the electric fund is $7,145,000, and that's 97% of our annual operating budget. Currently, the debt, or as of June 30th, the debt in the electric fund was $1,748,000. Water fund revenues budget actual $1,688,000, and actual revenues $1,518,000. Expenditures $1,722,000, and actual was $1,499,000. Unassigned fund balance for the water fund is $1,375,000, and the fund balance percentage of our annual operating budget is 80%. Our debt position in the water fund is $1,647,000. Sewer fund revenues, again, budget to actual $1,998,000, and we received $2,305,000. Expenditures budget to actual $2,621,000, and actual expenditures were $2,031,000. Unassigned fund balance for the sewer fund is $982,000, and that's only 38% of the operating budget. Debt position for the sewer fund is $1,537,000. So we're getting in short rows here. Stormwater fund is our last major fund. Revenue budget to actual. Again, this is it's quite a small fund. We budgeted $207,000, and we had $257,000 in revenues. Expenditures $283,000, and we spent $147,000 as of June 30th. Unassigned fund balance is $213,000, 76% of the annual operating budget, and the stormwater fund also has no debt. So I'll leave that open for any questions or comments. Just to make sure everyone understands, the revenues are in the enterprise or priority funds. There are sales of electricity, sales of water, sales of sewer, and revenue for the stormwater fund. And then the general fund, obviously, that's our tax base. So we have taxes and some fees mixed in there to bring in those revenues. and the expenditures are pretty much kind of self-explanatory. So now that this one's over, we're already scheduling the interim audit in April. So if everybody's welcome to come join us and have some fun with that. But I do stand by for any questions.
Only comments, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Glad to have this one over and move on to the next one. So it's a vicious cycle, but somebody's got to do it. So
Keep it straight.
Anthony is incredibly patient, which is a good thing, so.
thank you.
Sounds like we're in fairly good shape.
We are.
Blessed.
And it's thanks to the hard work of everybody. That's council, staff, everybody, so.
Okay, item number 9 is a public hearing.
As Mr. Jones is pulling up his presentation, I'd like to thank him. He was in school today in Chapel Hill and drove back in great time in order to give you this presentation this evening.
Good time, yes ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. It's a pleasure to be in front of you as always. So we got the last bit of mailing downs. We will get it all squared away tonight. If you guys will remember back in the fall, we did do 16 lots, so this will be the remaining 31 lots in there with a total of 47. So just to give you some site data, I know you guys are very familiar with it, but it's located off Laura Ellis Road. That's west of this intersection with Old Tar. So you got the zoning is R12.5, and like I said, it's 31 lots in this round, which will wrap everything up in mailing downs. So that you can see the process there. We're at the public hearing. So first phase was, like I said, in October. So we did send out the petitioners and adjacent property owners notice within 100 feet on February 25th, and then the published notice was in the reflector on the 27th of February and the 6th of this month. So there's mailing downs here. You see, there's the map. So all these in purple are the ones we're going for tonight. All the ones in the white between it have already been done. And with that, I'll answer any public or any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
If you don't have any, we're ready for the public hearing, Mr. Mayor.
Will that?
I said if you don't have any questions, we're ready for the public hearing.
Okay. Declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. What's the board's pleasure?
Move for approval, acceptance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Okay. The next item is public comment. Mr. William Mitchell. I didn't see him. I don't believe he's here. He's the only one that had signed up. Okay. Moving on, item number 11 is the consent agenda. Any item need to be removed? If not, do I hear a motion we approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on under old business. Excuse me. Approval of the next round of homes needing urgent, no, that's the old business, I'm sorry. Approval of the next round of homes needing urgent repairs through the town.
Urgent repair program.
Yeah.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm gonna ask that you table that until April because I don't think I was provided with the list to give you this evening.
Okay.
So I'll have to check into that, but we are ready. I think we have 4 to bring you with 1 alternate. And they are folks that have been waiting and have applied for, I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken, so we'll bring those in April. My apologies on that.
Okay. Do we need, I don't guess we need a motion on that, do we?
Motion to table?
No, I don't think so.
No, as long as everybody keen.
I make a motion to table.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table this until the next meeting. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Item number 2 is the Winterville Recreation Advisory Board compulsion. Can you even talk tonight?
Tomato, tomato, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is an item from last month's meeting when we presented an individual who had submitted a application for the Recreation Advisory Board. Council asked that we look at some various recreation advisory boards to see how they are composed, the composition of those rec boards. So you should have a spreadsheet in your packet outlining those. I think there were 27 total municipalities in the state that I had looked at, which, again, I wanted to just kind of look and see how expansive we could get in a reasonable amount of time. And 10 of those do have non-residents on the Recreation Advisory Board. Some of them vary in how they are set. And I think that really the language especially was what you were looking at, so I'll go into a little bit of that. Some are simply reside outside of the corporate limits. So let me back up. So just as a reminder, ours is outside of the town currently is outside of the town limits, but within the township, which again is a pretty large geographic area. So reside outside the corporate limits. Within the ETJ, there's one that has a urban service area that they have to reside within, but most of them are simply outside the city limits or within the ETJ for those non-resident members.
What residents who is allowed to be in our recreation programs? What's that geographic area?
In our recreation,
Right, program.
we don't have a residential limit.
Participate in recreation?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
But they would pay a larger fee, right?
Yes, they do. They pay the non-resident fee. Now, we do have a barrier for any of our Babe Ruth League baseball affiliated programs, and those vary slightly, but for the most part, our boundary is Pitt County.
Pitt County. Until the 1990s, we had a recreation commission, just for history, that the town board just approved.
Mm-hmm.
And they just approved who could be on the board. And I served on that board many years ago, and Mark's dad was president at one time of our recreation board. And of course, they built the park, the original park, and then they donated it to town Winterville years later. And I did not realize that people, even in Farmville, could participate in Winterville recreation.
Yeah, we don't have any.
4 out of 5 people who use our library do not live in our city limits too. 4 out of 5. And we're glad they do participate. But I think I like to give opportunities to people who live in our ETJ and outward an opportunity rather than the township, because the township goes into Greenville so heavily. I know there's also boundaries for the Little League program. Aren't there boundaries there also?
The city of Greenville's
Right.
Little League
About
program.
allowing our kids to come in.
You talk our baseball or
Their baseball.
They do have a boundary. Where exactly it is, I can't remember. It's a mileage, but I can't remember what it is.
Do we have
right
a
offhand.
boundary?
For Babe Ruth,
Right.
Pitt County, pretty much. For simplicity's sake, it's Pitt County.
Even the 9 through 12 programs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've done your research. And how many live outside town limits at this time?
So our rec board, we have 6 residents, 3 non-residents, and then 1 alternate, which can be a resident or a non-resident.
How many alternates?
So that total is 10. So 9 full members and then an alternate.
And the non-resident member requirements are what?
Non-resident are residing outside of the town limits, but within the township.
We should do away with the township name. If
And just-
anybody in Pitt County could be, why would you limit the township if you don't limit it to participants?
Yeah, I'm not certain, when that
We don't limit
language was.
library to township, so why should we limit the recreation board?
That's the board, though.
Well,
The board
Yeah.
and participants, it's two different things.
I certainly think that it's important that people that do not reside within the town limits are allowed or have the opportunity to serve on the Recreation Advisory Board, because again, we do serve a large area. Winterville, of course, is our primary goal, our primary objective, but we do serve a large number of participants outside as well. So I certainly think that for that purpose, it is right and good to have the opportunity for them to have a voice as well.
I like the way we currently have it set up. I think that's very fair.
especially with research.
I think I brought up the question about township, last time we was here, and the reason I wanted to table, and still not clear on the word township. I mean, you saying it can go all the way up, we can go all the way to Bethel as far as township.
Well, actually, the
No.
township is a delineated geographical area that
Okay.
has historically been in existence. So there is a designated township.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get you a map. It's a defined area, but it
Uh-huh.
is a very large area
Yes.
that moves well into what people consider city limits of Greenville.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I was getting, because if you're going into city limits of Greenville, and I agree, I want everybody to represent it, but at the same time, I look at what Greenville Rec Department offers, what we offer, and, so just to, I think it needs to be cut off, and that was my only question about the township thing. I mean, I don't mind people serving outside up to the ETJ, but in the broader scope that, you can sit in Greenville and make decisions for what Winterville Recreation Department does.
Well,
Advise, that's what I'm saying.
and I would say that, again, when you're looking at the composition of the Recreation Advisory Board, again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that I think it's important for them to have a voice on that Recreation Advisory Board. But, again, that it's 6-3 resident to non-resident. So yes, they serve on the board, and yes, they have a voice, but it is the minority voice on the Recreation Advisory Board. And as a side note, those are the two vacancies that we have. 2 of the 3 vacancies that we have are non-resident members.
How much bigger is the township compared to a Winterville address? Because we have a lot of people that participate in our programs that may live on Corey Road. That's in Greenville, but they have Winterville addresses, just like Thomas Langston Road. We have a lot of people, a lot of those kids participate. It's a Winterville address, but some of that's Greenville City.
I don't know how, I'm really not certain. Brian, do you have any idea how big or any geographic reference?
I've got an old map hanging in my shop. Brook Valley was in Winterville Township. Winterville was the largest township in Pitt County back in the old days.
Goes all the way into Hooker Road, behind the original Walmart.
Now, again, my only comment again, as far as it relates to township is, we're serving people all over the county. It might be Greenville, it might be Farmville, it might be Chicago, Simpson. We've got people that come from, we do have people that come from all over the place to participate in our program, because I like to think we have a quality program that they want to participate in.
And buy concessions.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And buy concessions.
Now, your fee rate changes for people that don't live
That's
in
correct.
the township
Yes,
or
ma'am.
city.
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
People that do not live in the township.
No, I'm sorry. Anybody, so the fee differential is resident versus non-resident. So it doesn't specify anything about township. It's either you reside within the Winterville town limits and you're a resident, or you do not and you are a non-resident.
The late Holloman, when I was city council, he had that included in our minutes and program back in 1983. He said they should pay more. Otherwise, people should pay the same.
Oh, yeah, and you see most areas, at least that I'm familiar with, you have of course, a higher rate for residents for most things that you do, because again, they're supplementing the program.
The revenue that you receive based on percentage, how much do we actually receive that actually paid into the program itself compared to what the taxpayer pays?
I'm not
Percentage?
sure. I'm not certain right offhand. So you're asking how much money is basically a transfer from the general fund versus how much in fees we receive in revenue? Is that what you're asking?
Right, to operate for?
It'd be hard to, I mean, I'd have to go down and break it down for every single line item by the total, because I mean, really, there's not, you've got a lump sum transfer and then individual line items, so it'd be tough to look at it percentage-wise without.
And the reason why I asked that was because of the members that you have on your board, your advisory board. I think there is a good number. I think you're speaking of 9 plus a reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then plus the town has, 6 members?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I think that's fair. It's just my opinion. I think that's fair.
Mr. Moy was our chairman of our recreation the second year the town took it over. Ms. Henderson was first, you were chairman the
Yes,
second year.
I was the second.
And I
Well,
was
thank
their-
you for your service.
I was their secretary.
Yes, he was my secretary. He was tough.
Also, Evan, I see when you pull the spreadsheet, it also includes, some of the boards have, council members, that are attached to their board. I think
There are
Cornwall
3.
has a town council person.
There are 3, yes.
Yeah, Gastonia and
Yep.
Dunn and Aiden. Aiden has an alternate, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, Aiden's is in council, so the close, really the only one in our general vicinity is Farmville.
Any other questions? Thank
Still
you.
didn't answer the question, but for me,
Ask your question.
well, I mean, township, I mean, that was what I was asking the original question about. I mean, you know,
Where the boundary at?
but yeah.
Okay,
how
I
we gonna
have it pulled up. Thanks to Ben. And so, I mean, I can certainly send this out to everybody, but it looks geographically as if it extends, I mean, it's a pretty large area based off of, comparatively speaking, to the town limits. It says there's a total population of about 50,127 people in this township area.
It's 185 in Pitt County and 50,000 in Winterville Township.
So it does look like it encompasses most of the southern part of the county.
Browser.
He's gonna put it up on the screen.
Oh, good. Thank you. The corporate limit lines are a little slightly hard to see once you see the coloring of the township, but you can still discern.
Remember, we had the first school in Pitt County in 2000. I mean, 1900, we had the first school in the county. First town with utilities in the county, thanks to Mr. A.J. Cox. What a wonderful man he was. We sold utilities to Greenville until 1947. You could only have one light bulb, though.
I still,
One light bulb
great story.
per home. He donated land for both schools, Robinson and Cox. Sued the railroad and won, put a depot here. Worldwide builder of farm equipment. Amazing man.
Yeah, but anyway, this kind of gets back to the fact that, you know, I mean, it's really a term that most people are not familiar with. The only way that I myself find out whether or not they're within the township is if I go look it up on Opus, and there's an item on there that tells me whether or not they're in the township.
Okay.
You know, I mean, for simplicity's sake, if you're going to remove township, some of these other places just say outside of the town limits.
Okay, I just sent it to your emails. I don't know how many of you can actually look at it once you get it. Maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
But I will note, and I didn't mention this before, that we are the only one that used the word township as a defining area.
Can everybody see it?
We
or-
are? You say we are? You say that we are?
On this list that I found, we are the only municipality that uses township as the defining characteristic, or one of them. Most of them, for simplicity's sake, either say outside the corporate limits, town, city, what have you, or within the ETJ.
And at one time, Hooker Road residents did go to D.H. Conley.
And we've had a number of members that have served on the rec board. I can think of one that was an ECU professor that lived over in the area off Thomas Langston. So it does extend out a fair amount.
Well, I just make a motion that we just change the language to outside the ETJ.
Outside the town limits.
Outside town limits.
Corporate limits.
Yeah, outside the corporate limit.
Second.
So, if I may, so you're
So
changing
what-
it
how
from
far they go?
Winterville Township to the extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said outside
I
the town.
thought you said outside too.
Yeah.
Sit outside
So
town.
within the ETJ.
Well, if you say outside,
No.
there's no delineation to what
Oh, no,
outside the ETJ is. I'm just trying to
Okay,
get
I
it
was
clear.
wrong.
Within the ETJ. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I'm not trying to sway, I just
All right.
want to make sure I understood what you,
Within the ETJ.
okay.
Okay.
And your reason for that is?
Huh?
And your reason for that is?
Well, I just think it needs to be more precise what we're doing.
Okay.
Well, I think we got a motion and a second. I'll just ask one question. Is anyone on the board now that lives outside this area that we're talking about?
There is not. We only have one non-resident on the board right now, and they are, well, actually, I take that back.
That is going to.
The one individual that is on the board right now, yes, would be outside of our ETJ.
Because they are technically in Greenville.
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Or are you gonna let them stay on the board?
Well, until his term is up. I mean, that's what
So
you gotta do.
grandfather, the
Right.
pe-
When his
person
term
that's
is
up there now.
So, but that would also
So there are motions.
discount current applicants who have not yet been approved.
Right.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in,
Mayor, can I make sure that the motion's clarified
Do
for
we-
my purposes and for the
okay, what is it?
With grandfather, anybody's already on the board
to grandfather anybody in, is it
and had to live in
within the
DTJ.
ETJ
Correct, outside the town limits, but within the
It would
corporate
change the
limits.
verbiage
from
from
ETJ?
Winterville Township to Winterville extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Correct.
Is that, make sure that,
I think that's what I thought.
is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Just as second. And just for a clarification, the chief's not here tonight, is he? Are firemen required to live in the district? They can live anywhere, just curious.
No, they are not.
They're not.
I'm not
okay.
certain.
Chief is currently in Florida, looking
Sunny-
at
sunny Florida.
hopefully the final inspection on our new truck, the first new truck, so it's getting close.
Luckily, they're not really beating our weather by much right now.
No, that's right.
That's true.
Okay,
That's
that'll
true.
make us jealous.
Okay, you got,
I think we have a motion and a second.
we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a lot of work. I'm sorry, that kind of work. My apologies. I didn't anticipate
Item
it.
number 3 is the Brookstone subdivision, Phase 1, request for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just an informational item for you guys tonight, not asking for any action. Just wanted to make you guys aware of
An
current
amendment.
application for this. So D.R. Horton is requesting to amend a conditional zoning that was done back in 2006 for Brookstone. One of those conditions was that a minimum of 25% of the homes in that subdivision will be all brick. D.R. Horton does not offer an all brick product. So they are requesting that the town remove that condition from that zoning district. So it won't change anything as far as layout of subdivision, road network, or anything like that. It'll strictly just amend the original conditional zoning. So this will be going before the planning board next week. They'll recommend a decision to you guys for the April meeting. But typically we'll go planning board, set a public hearing, and then have the public hearing the next month. But this one was a little bit different, so we just wanted to try to get it done in a two-step process. So we're going planning board, then directly to you guys the next month, but wanted to make you aware of what was coming down the pipe. But if you guys aren't familiar with Brookstone, it's the subdivision that's out on Church Street Extension. So you can see it's not built out at all. It totally fizzled out in the 08 bust. So I think it's probably a good thing. We've got some interest, but we'll see what planning board recommends, and then come back to you guys for a public hearing in April. And I'll kind of just show you. So the current zoning, that's the current zoning. So it would not only affect just what's in there. I mean, it will affect the whole conditional zoning. But I'll answer any questions at this time if you got any.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say the conditional use that the previous developer put upon themselves was, remind me.
The 25%, 25% of all the
All
lots
brick.
will have a all brick home on them. So this will just take that requirement off. So the D.R. Horton will probably propose what they'll want to put on there. They have shown some product lines they have. All their product lines have a brick facade. They just don't offer a brick side, full brick. They do a little bit better than vinyl. They do like hardy plank and stuff like that. So I think it's a quality product. But like I said, we'll take it to planning board, see what their recommendation is, and come back to you next month.
So the first developer, this was approved by him. The board approved what his plan.
Yes, ma'am.
His plan said that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is a new developer taking over.
Coming in and, yes, ma'am, buying up all the remainder of the lots.
These conditions are usually self-imposed, if you'll recall. So they, for whatever reason at the time, think that that type of condition will work well. In the case of this particular development, though it's a nice development, that condition has not worked well at all, and it's sort of just kind of puddled along. And the new developer, I think, is very well known and a large developer.
Yes, so D.R. Horton is the largest home builder in the United States. So that you don't get to be the largest without putting a quality product out there. So I think they, from what I've seen and what I've heard from their guys is they do have a quality product. So
This was brought about, I think the mayor pushed for us, we were the vinyl city.
I like the idea of having 25% brick.
I think
The problem is they're not building them. They're sitting there, those lots aren't being built.
Well, is anything being built on any of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of houses being built, and we've got a
On
lot
that.
on the, well, that, no, but I don't know that you're gonna see
no, and I will.
those products come to fruition.
I will say what the trend you've seen for home builders in probably the last 10 years is they've gone away from that all brick construction, unless you're in a neighborhood that has like really strict HOA covenants or but what you'll see is that combination brick stone front that gives the appearance of the all brick, but then obviously the sides would just be that.
And all the other three sides of vinyl.
Well, and that's one of the things.
Sea of vinyl in one of them.
And I will say they do say that they're not planning to put vinyl on there. They are doing hardy plank siding, so it's a quality product.
Again, staff's just, we're just presenting what they
Absolutely.
intend to bring forward, but we do believe that all brick requirements will probably just sit there.
So it's your belief that that's has held up the development of this area? the requirement
think
that
it's
the
probably-
house is
The
all
the
brick?
only other subdivision that I'm aware of in Winterville that had that requirement was Cedar Ridge. 25% of the ones in Cedar Ridge had to be brick.
I remember that well, 2006.
I don't want to speak for Brian, but I will say that I think it's a multitude of things that probably have held that development being finished out.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things is probably the school district. So this is the once you get to this property, it's actually an Aiden school district. So for whatever reason,
You don't want to go the opposite direction when you go to work. Most
Well,
people work in Greenville.
that's right.
You have to go to Aiden, take your child, then come back.
So that coupled with the brick construction requirement, the developer just moved out really and didn't sell his homes like he was going to, and so now the opportunity has come up that he can sell them to D.R. Horton, and they're willing to put products up and fast from what we were understanding. And I'll let them speak to you guys.
I like Seat Road.
So.
Thank you, Brian.
Any more? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
What's the board's pleasure?
No, it's no action. They're just
No.
informing you that it's coming.
Oh, it's coming, that's right, it's going.
It's got to go to
Gotta go
planning
through the
board first.
planning board first.
Okay,
Mr. Sutton.
item number 4, the approval of the electric territory expansion design and engineering contract.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Work with some tall people. If you recall, a few months back, you approved staff to enter contract negotiations for the work on the, with 2 items. Now, the first one we'll be talking about today is the electric territory expansion. This is a territory that Greenville Utilities and the town of Winterville came to an agreement on as to who would serve who with electricity. What we decided to do after a good bit of discussion was we would divvy the new territory up into sections. It would give us a better idea of what each individual component would cost. Thought it would give us more options and would afford the board more options as well.
The option about we will not serve any GUC customers that didn't Greenville offer that to us, to serve their customers within that block?
I'm sorry, didn't understand.
One of the
question.
things you have is not serve any current GUC customers. I thought in the agreement they said that they did not mind if we did that.
No, if they're an existing customer of Greenville Utilities, they will remain a customer.
So they got 12 homes, right?
Depending on which section it is, there are numerous homes in these territories. Like, for example, out on
Worthington Road, I think that block is that, I mean, something about the number 12 was mentioned.
Worthington Road does have a few, just a handful. And when I say a few, I'm talking about the area from Fork Swamp heading west back into Winterville on Worthington Road. There are just a very few through there. All of that territory, if the board approves, will be town of Winterville customers. Each house, new home that's built through there.
Thank you.
The engineer has proposed $100,000 to get to this point. Ben, Terry, myself have had numerous discussions. We're comfortable with this number. We think it's a fair offer for the town. And I'll entertain any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Item 5. Item 5, Old Tar Road widening. It's coming. We have to do our part to be ready. Now, we think we are a little ahead of the curve at this point. It's our belief, particularly after talking with our consultant, that this will be a reimbursable project. We also like to do something similar. We'll break it up into components. We'll have this one ready to bid by July 1. And at that point, we'll have a much better feel for what our costs are going to be. Our initial cost for the first phase to get it ready and to get it designed and ready for bids is $95,000. There will be an additional $52,400 required for the construction, administration, inspection, so forth, once the project actually starts.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval.
I'm sorry. Mr. Hines, did you second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess we covered number 5 also, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
All right, on the new business, approval of contract award to the Tripp Brothers for the Church Street lift station.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This project is for the force main from the Church Street lift station. It runs down the canal all the way to Highway 11 by what was formerly Neff Rentals, is now United Rentals. And at that point, the force main ties into CMSD's force main. This is just for a replacement of a small portion of that force main. If you remember, 2 summers ago, town staff replaced the force main using the town's equipment and staff from the lift station all the way to Reedy Branch Road because we had a lot of failures in there, and the state basically sort of threatened us and said we've got to get those sanitary sewer overflows under control. So we replaced all that pipe. There was one exception. There was a portion of pipe in a casing under the railroad tracks that we could not get out from the old pipe, so we could not replace it. So this project will replace that. Not only replace it, but we're going to go ahead and upsize it for future growth coming to the Church Street lift station. All of the potential growth that's going to come about because of the new regional lift station that was recently completed will pump to Church Street lift station, and that lift station will be at capacity in the near future due to all this potential development. So we need to start planning ahead for that. And staff would like to take on a portion of this force main 1 year at a time so that we can pay cash for it and not have to borrow any money. And this is the first logical step in that. I received the three prices. The low bid was, I believe, $81,805. There was a slight change that I requested after the fact that added additional $2,500. The engineer had some additional pipe replacement that DOT requested after I had reviewed the plans, and they noted it as 8-inch pipe, but I want to go ahead and put in 12-inch pipe so we don't have to take it out.
Good move. Move for approval.
What, was this after your bid came in or before?
It was after the bid came in when I saw the plans. It's only a $2,500 change, just increasing the pipe size along Mill Street, Old 11, from 8-inch to 12-inch, so that we don't have to take it back out down the road and replace it.
What was your next closest bid to this?
The next closest bid, so the low bidder was $81,805. The next bidder was $134,321, and the highest bidder was $207,705. And I actually met with 2 of these contractors, including the low bidder, on site and walked them through the job. A lot of these projects we struggle to get people, interested in it. The economy's good right now. People are looking for big jobs. We feel good about the contractor. He just completed our streets improvement project. He's doing the new subdivision in town across from the shop on Church Street. We've got a good working relationship.
I asked for bids on it. I didn't realize they were in the package until
That's all right.
now.
That's okay.
And the reason I asked for it because I thought this was a bid going to Wooten Company, who's doing Boyd Street, and I just wanted to understand.
Well, that's actually 2 different firms.
I know it's 2 different programs, but I was kind of upset. I thought that,
No, ma'am.
get some more work and hadn't finished what we.
Our engineer is the Wooten Company, but they're an engineering firm. ST Wooten is a completely different firm.
2 different groups. Okay.
Yeah, when you see Wooten on here, it is not related to the Boyd Street project at all. Trust me.
I am very upset that it's taking so long.
Yes, ma'am.
And that every time I go to church, I watch my car because my tires
Have you heard
got
the
clay
latest?
all over. So
You heard the latest about the completion date is now?
Travis is gonna give that
Yeah.
report, but you're not gonna wanna hear it.
You're not gonna wait.
I'll give it to you when we do I'll give it when we do the project
I'll
reports.
wait.
How about that?
I'll wait. I'll wait for it.
You're not gonna like it at all. Again, I move for approval.
Okay. I'll second.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Ms. Robertson?
And a second. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any, on item 14, are there any other agenda items?
don't have any at the moment.
Okay. Item number 15 is for future agendas.
Park Street being paved,
Say again.
a project in the future work session about Park Street. In the past, we've asked for, third on each side. We've had a third, but at least look at it. It's the only street in town not paved.
And I don't hate to butt in, but I did speak with DOT after last meeting or meeting before, and the gentleman who I spoke with years ago, and they thought they were going to be able to pave it, he no longer works in that division of the division. So the other gentleman that took over, he said there is no plan to pave that at this time, but we can certainly request.
Is this Owl Street or State Street?
That's a State Street.
Park is a State Street?
Yes, sir.
I like to make later on to make a motion.
Right, but it's in town.
It's in
It is
town,
in
but it's,
town.
Yes.
but it's DOT.
Yes.
Is DOT.
I'd like to make a motion, but probably let up to our representatives to have it curb, gutter, and paved. And that would go to Mr. Murphy and to the guy from Lenoir County and our senator.
Curb, gutter, and paved.
Yep, since it's the only one in town, they can help us out. We
I
should
do
not have,
know that the Shrine Club is very interested in
Yeah.
it being paid.
and we can add that in there,
Okay.
by my letter.
That is the motion, Mayor.
I've got a motion
I second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Travis.
Okay.
So Councilman Moore, taking it off future work sessions for the moment, we'll write the letter and
Right,
then,
then talk about it.
okay. Travis said he wasn't leaving. I'm just kidding. He's gonna give
Oh,
his
yeah, I was
report.
gonna say, I was gonna call for department heads to, if you had anything, is that what you're standing up? with?
Yes, sir. I was just going to go ahead and give the reports,
Okay,
if you're ready.
yeah.
I'll start off, I'll talk about the speed limit stuff, then Boyd Street. I did email the state after we had our discussion and votes last month on the speed limits. I've disseminated that information to the Department of Transportation, waiting to hear back from them on that.
When you go into Aiden, it says 55 miles an hour. Okay?
Right.
It just, it clarifies things.
That's
all.
right,
Clarification
right.
to the public.
And I've sent all that information to them. I'm waiting on a response. I imagine they have to take it to their board as well. Boyd Street, they did start laying the storm drain at the church this morning. So it's probably going to be messy over there for the next 2 weeks, I would guess. But I'm glad they're finally getting over there and working. It's starting to dry up a little bit, so maybe they can make some progress on that quickly. As far as completion dates, I spoke with the inspector and a DOT representative out there right after lunch, and they anticipate late May to early June.
And it was supposed to be last November.
November, yes, sir. Now, the phase one, which is between Mill Street and Highway 11, they are very close to being ready to pave over there. I believe all the concrete work is done. The curb and gutters down, the sidewalks down. I believe they are ready to pave, but I believe the contractor has an issue with his asphalt plant here in town, so they are trying to address that, from my understanding.
So you're saying that the phase 2 is going to be April or May?
May or June.
May or June.
And if I was
Would you
betting
be
man, I'd
willing to
bet June.
on that?
I'd bet.
Because I bet you it'll be late summer.
I didn't say what year.
I think it'll be this year.
Might be
It'll just
Thanksgiving.
be about the time school goes back. They won't be done with it.
I wouldn't bet on anything.
I was gonna say, you need to go ahead with that project.
They need to do some drug testing over there when you ask them that question, those questions.
Laurie Ellis, they are working on the bulb outs for the turnarounds, and I believe after that they are pretty much done. They put the top layer of asphalt down. I think end of March and April. That I haven't heard that from them, but just my guess. I try to ride through there once or twice a week. They're getting pretty close, and those guys are out there working hard every day. So I do anticipate that being done pretty quickly. So the other projects, one of them is Church Street Pump Station Rehab. We just talked about the force main, so I'll skip that for this month. The 2018 SRF application, the cleaning and TVing contractor completed his work approximately 2 weeks ago. The engineer has all that information, is reviewing it. There may be a possibility to have some cost savings on that job. After they cleaned and cambered all the sewer mains, they think that the repairs, and they did a cost estimate, they think the repairs may come in under what they originally estimated. So staff is speaking with the state to see if we can squeeze in some of the work from the second project that we had discussed doing on the CIP, which is some pump station rehab. Chapman Street and Robinson Heights are two of the ones that we really need to get some work done on. Chapman Street was the first lift station built in town. I believe it was built in the 60s. It's the original structure there now. You know, it has the most flow of any station in town, so at some point we're going to have to do some major renovations there. You know, that structure is just extremely old, and they don't last forever, especially in that environment. So we're in the beginning stages of having that discussion, whether or not the state will allow us to include that work in this project as long as we stay within the original budget, or if they'll make us resubmit for a different project. Other project, Chapman Street Culvert, the plans are at 100% and the specifications are at 90%. We should be submitting for permits this week. There's only one permit required. That's from the Corps and DWQ for working in that stream bed, but we should submit for that this week and be ready for bids, hopefully, potentially in the next 45 to 60 days. That'd be a good project to do during the summer, you know, when it's less rainy, hopefully. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
The almanac set's gonna be dry.
I hope so. We could use it.
Absolutely.
This month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. As Evan is coming up, I wanted to just give a quick minimum housing code enforcement update. Mike and Willie are working diligently on the cases they have currently on the books. I believe Councilman Moore asked us to look into 3 addresses, and we are doing that as well. So
on Main Street.
They may make the list. I don't know that there's been active inspections yet, but
Also, when they burned the house beside the Dollar General, there's a beautiful tree there. Is there any way we can help protect that tree?
I will talk to Chief Moore.
That walnut
and
tree
see
is
if there's
in Old Towns. I had a constituent said, please save the tree.
I will talk with Chief Moore to see if there's something we can do.
Yes.
Now, which tree you talking about?
The big tree in front of Mr. Moore's old house.
You talking about that,
Maple tree.
no, it's not a maple.
What is it?
Magnolia.
Magnolia tree.
Magnolia.
Okay. And just think, all the fumes that fire's gonna put off in our air by burning the house down.
And
Think about that.
We have to get air quality permits, and we do have to go through permitting processes, so they try to take all of that into account, and they'll do a good job of trying to let everybody know what's going on, but we will also look at seeing what they can do to keep the tree from being damaged.
I had one when I moved to Winterville, and I trimmed it one day with a chainsaw right down to the ground.
I had one too, and I got rid of it.
I don't have to worry with those leaves anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Magnolia tree.
Thanks, Evan.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good evening again. Just a few things for you guys real quick. Fork Swamp Canal Greenway planning effort, all of that stuff is still coming along well. We received what we're hoping is the last draft from the consultant of the town-wide Greenway Master Plan on Friday. We're reviewing that. We have received 25% design plans from the contractor. Not that those aren't any final, it's a 25% design plan. We submit that back with comments. All of that effort's still coming along well. Multi-purpose building site plan, I believe that is going to be touched on some tonight in closed session. Easter egg hunt, April 7th at 2 p.m. at the Winterville Recreation Park. The rain date for that is April 14th. Opening day for the 7 through 12-year-old Cal Ripken baseball is this Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Winterville Recreation Park on McLaughlin Field. And Hillcrest Park Playground is almost there. I would imagine, weather permitting, that there isn't much more time left in that, probably a couple weeks at most. They are wrapping up the surface on the playground.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the only thing after that to be complete, the playground itself will be complete. The only thing to finish after that will be sidewalk.
Easter egg hunt is when?
April 7th, and then the rain date is the 14th.
And
okay.
You know, I talked to you about 2 o'clock each day.
Yes, 2 o'clock is correct. Yes,
I
sir.
talked about the fundraiser for Saturday morning.
Mhm.
I believe the rain's coming.
Yeah.
On the council tomorrow night, so thank you.
You're welcome.
That's one of those pancake dinner. But
Yeah, and I know we actually got spit on a little bit earlier, and it rained a little bit earlier, or a little bit yesterday, so it looks like Mother Nature's finally starting to get things straight, but it's been a roller coaster here lately. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan.
Anyone else?
We have Brian and Ben, but before, or as Brian's coming up, the two items that Robert would normally be reporting on, you all just approved contracts on, so he was feeling poorly and cut out of here early, and we don't have anything else to report on those two items.
So real quick, you guys were well aware we had a busy couple of days, a couple weeks ago with our 3-day charrette and visioning goals for our land use plan. We had a really good turnout through 3 days. We had between the public and staff, we had about 100 people run through here, which is really good for public input. So I've gotten the summary from all that data. I haven't had a chance to disseminate it yet. We do have it up on the website, though. I do want to keep encouraging you guys to check out our website. Keep pushing our survey. It'll be open through the end of the month. Right now, we've got about 300 responses, which is a really good response rate, but I want to get it more. So the more we can get, the better. But nothing earth-shattering so far that I've seen. I mean, the typical things that people want to see is better housing variety, some more recreation. Variety, yes, sir.
Anything about commercial on Worthington mentioned at all?
I haven't gotten into that, but I mean, I know talking to people a little bit.
When's going to the planning board next?
Yeah, with that's going to be a tricky one when we get into that rezoning request. I haven't really gotten.
Mr. Kell was here that's why he came tonight forward to hear about that.
So yeah, but that's definitely going to planning board next week, and then you guys will hear it thereafter. But that's going to be an interesting corridor. I will say, so we're going into a contract session with our professional service agreement with STV to do a Worthington Road corridor study. That study will provide a little bit more. Hopefully that will give us even some form-based maybe stuff to how it's going to look coming into Winterville. The land use plan is definitely going to touch on it, but that corridor study is really going to be the meat of what we want to see for Worthington Road to look like.
So y'all put it off until after that study's done?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Y'all put that off until that study's done?
He's got the right to ask you guys to rezone it anytime he wants. The information that I've got probably won't back up what. It's hard for me to give good information on a request like that right now when we don't have, as a planner, the planner wants to point to a document that says, yes, the town visions this. We just don't have that right now. So it'll be really hard for me to get up here and point to something obviously we don't have. So, but anyway, the land use plan is going on swimmingly. We're doing, getting right on schedule. We should hopefully have you guys some draft documentation, probably not in April, but in May. That thing should start really coming together, and by the end of the summer, we'll have something formally in front of you guys for approval. But any questions?
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
Nobody else? I thought the chief was wanting to get up and make a
Chief looks
speech.
like he wants to say something.
Chief, I heard about some break-ins in our neighborhood.
Come on up, Chief.
One of the residents came out to see me and wanted me to address that tonight.
Good evening. Yes, indeed, there on Sunday night there was quite a few car break-ins in Cedar Ridge and the surrounding area. We've been taking reports on those all day, and all of them appear to be unlocked vehicles. So we've got some people going around late at night checking vehicles. So lock your vehicles if you don't.
3 and 4 o'clock.
I'm not sure if we can determine exactly when the time was. Also, leaving garage doors up and open and.
Be careful.
Yep. But that's all I have to report on that incident. It's been a while since we've had that. I've also heard that other municipalities have had that as well. So as the weather is not so cold, then people are afoot
a reminder to lock the doors. Thanks, Chief.
My gate's up, closed.
I guess Ben's gonna go over all this other stuff.
We finished this.
We finished
so
it.
we
Oh,
just
okay.
are ready when you all are.
All righty, well, we'll move on down. How about our town attorney? Does he have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report. I just remind you that you have a closed session tonight to discuss a couple of matters regarding potential purchasing of real estate. Shouldn't take too long. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Anthony, thank you very much. I remember when you were hired as an intern way back,
That was only yesterday.
and you wanted a raise before you would stay with us. And we said, whatever it took, keep you here, and you've been here ever since. So I think we made a good move.
Absolutely.
Pretty awesome cover on that.
Yeah. The Chief's car, and everybody knows this is a unique photograph of the Chief's car. Our cars are well designed. You mentioned something about the cars, and nobody else has that kind of hood, right? Great job, Chief.
Contrary to what the chief would have you believe, there's other information in there besides.
Besides his car. It has nothing to do with a car.
Is that picture taken at your house with the lake behind it?
Pitt Community College. I remember we used to fight. When a council member who died years later, we used to argue. And he said, I want one car. Came to the book meeting, wanted 4 cars. He got them. He died later on, but he fought hard for the police department. Mr. Worthington.
Mr. Robinson?
I would like for our town to extend our sympathy to the family of Mary Alice Davenport, of Aiken Commissioner. I saw her funeral arrangements tomorrow from 1 to 3, and the service at 3. We'd like to extend our sympathy to that family. Also, on Thursday at 7, we're having a community conversation on jobs for adults, children, dislocated, all those kinds of people. We're going to have that here at the community room, hopefully, probably about an hour, and we have people there to share information and give out information on jobs. Also, this is Women's History Month, and we do have 2 people in our community that I think we should honor. The first woman elected to our board, Velma Harper, and also the first woman that served as town manager, Ms. Terry Parker.
Who was that?
Yes. And we, so we've got a little bit of women's history that we're making here in Winterville.
But we've never had a Caucasian lady serve on our board.
Yes, I know.
Never had a white female serve on our board, never.
But at least we've had women, and so we're working on that.
Thank you.
I don't have anything, Mayor. I'll embarrass Ashton and Jacob in the back there. You guys did good. I didn't see you sleep one bit.
Except they're not sure you're talking to them. I'm just kidding.
They know I'm talking to them. They're hiding in the very back.
The only one that I have a concern about is the Noble Canal. And I think we're still doing a study on that. Is that correct?
Be glad to have Ben come up and give you the detailed update, but I think things stand basically as we have previously reported.
That's correct. We are continuing to, Noble Canal drains to Chapman Street culvert that we're working on down there. We have had some conversations and some meetings with some local elected officials, as well as the Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality as recent as last week. Some discussions about our stormwater situation and our needs. The cost of those needs have been presented to those gentlemen. They're aware of them. So when we develop project applications, that then we can have discussions with those funding agencies, and they're aware of them. As far as we have gotten some estimates on some stabilization outside of the scope for the Chapman Street culvert replacement. Those numbers are approximately $100,000 to $150,000 extra. We will include and continue to have discussions with potential contractors for that project about possibly working that in. Just all depends on funding availability.
When will you start having bids for that? You say you already
So
have bids?
Travis mentioned that earlier during
Yes.
his report. We're looking about 60 days to have the permit, and then we'll be able to bid that out. And so, I mean, it'll be quite a while in the summertime when we're getting into that.
And you say you will include.
We intend to just have discussions with potential contractors about that, the possible inclusion of that, should funding be available for it.
And you got $1.1 million grant for us from the Golden Leaf?
It was, yes, sir, for that
Stabilize the
project. Well, that's the culvert replacement, right.
Great job, great job, great job. Free money, I like free money.
Could it be included into the bid when you place your bids out?
We are discussing about having that as an alternate to separate and apart from the primary objective of replacing the culvert, to get prices on that. Should it come in, we'll have a number, hopefully, to then have discussions about affordability.
But at this juncture,
It is,
that piece was not part of the grant funding.
that is correct.
So
It is
we
not
have
part
to
of the
get
funded
approval.
project. That money would likely need to come out of our own funds.
Right.
But what we would be able to do is have discussions with potential contractors about what it might cost should they do that work. What we have gotten are estimates from the engineer based on the quantity of riprap necessary to do that.
Well, my concern is interest on this is because of, as long as you have your contractor out there working and they have their equipment already there, you know, that's not a better, I mean, I can't think no other better time to at least look into, go ahead and complete that.
Certainly, and that's why we've gotten those estimates, those
Exactly.
quantities available, and we'll
Good.
continue to have those discussions with the potential contractors.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Just throw this out there, we would have to have engineering plans done, and that is something that we would have to permit and potentially pay mitigate, I mean, we would have to permit that. We can't just go out there and do it.
That's a
Now, you said-
permit with the state and the Army Corps, if I'm
That's
not
correct.
mistaken.
You said problematic, or that is concrete?
No, we have to get a permit to do that type of work. That's
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
That would be through the state and the Army Corps of Engineers.
And
So we would have to pay the engineer to draw up plans. We, like Ben's mentioned, we've already talked to the engineer about potentially adding it to this project. We're not gonna have, unless the bids come in and surprise us all, we're not gonna have enough grant money to pay for the culvert replacement and the additional work. Any of that work, we're gonna have to pay for using town stormwater funds.
Okay.
Unless, I'm shocked with the prices that we get back when
But
we
then we'd
open
have to get
bids.
permission to use grant funding to pay for.
That's correct.
Yeah, we would need to, as the manager was saying, we'd have to go back to the funding agency and explain that we are trying to, outside of the original footprint of the project, do some stabilization efforts. And then, once we get permission from them, or we appropriate the funding for it, then we would need to, well, at the same time, have permission from the regulatory agencies to go in and work within the blue line.
I would like to see that happen, just to ask them to let them know. That would be a great interest.
Certainly.
Do we need to do that in a motion?
Was that ask for the permit or inquire with the regulatory agency whether or not it's an allowable activity?
Yes.
So we can make a phone call.
I don't think we need a motion because at this juncture it would be a little premature because there's so many steps in order to see if that's even possible at this stage. We'll come back and report what we have found out after talking with the various entities. Because do we have cost estimates on that?
We have gotten general quantities
Correct.
based on some locations, and those are just
So we're
the
still not
engineered.
exactly sure without engineered plans what we're talking about in terms of cost.
Right, we just have footprints and estimated amounts of stone.
But we've done so much with that Nobel Canal in that area. Haven't we done some planning before and estimated costs before? I know that this is a new year and I know costs are different.
Yeah, there is in the Noble Canal Drainage Basin Study, there are cost estimates for that. And I think that we did get the engineer to send us an estimate for that.
We do, that's right.
I think we do have a cost estimate on the construction, but we don't have a cost estimate for engineering
All that would
and
have to be
permitting.
updated.
Yeah, I realize.
Now, I know
when
there have been other
Right,
studies,
right.
there's been studies prior to my arrival, so that's a handful of years back. We did the grant-funded study of the entire drainage basin that identified those 5 projects in excess of $6 million, which this particular one is the downstream end of that series of 5 projects. And in that, there was some discussion about stabilization in some areas. So there are some estimates. But as Travis was kind of alluding to, you don't know the hard number until you put it out in front of the folks that are going to do the work, and they tell you, this is how much it's going to cost me or you to do that work.
And this is something that, we're having a stormwater workshop in 2 weeks.
Right.
If we want to talk about it further then, I can certainly bring those cost estimates to that meeting.
That'd be a good idea.
Probably a more appropriate time,
Yeah.
And that'll give us time to reach out to the regulatory agencies as well.
Okay.
And discuss the permitting hurdles, if you will.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Hines?
That's for last, right? Whatever. I'd like to say congratulations to South Central High School basketball team for winning the East Regional, and also to Coach Cherry. I did travel up to Wake Forest last Tuesday night and watched them play Wakefield. Very disciplined team.
They're very impressive.
Very disciplined team, and I think that speaks well of Coach Cherry. I see how he's taking care of these kids, and he's done a great job with them. They never get rattled, and they stay composed. And I thought that was really, because I watched the rest of the games at East Carolina this weekend, and I saw some of the kids get out of characters. But South Central stayed very composed, and I think that speaks volume for Coach Cherry and his staff. They've done a good job with these kids. So.
They're fun to watch,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
I have nothing. Do I hear a motion? We adjourn.
So move.
Go to closed session.
This is closed session. All in favor, say aye.
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Oh, let me.